Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by developing yourself, developing your skills, your network, your habits, and more. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Hayslip, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking with Andre Elmoznino. I'm so sorry, Andre, I cannot pronounce your last name. As you'll hear in this episode, Andre will pronounce it, and he'll do a very good job at it. Currently, Andre works as a lead software engineer in Stockholm, Sweden. But I first met Andre as he was a student at the very first cohort of the very first bootcamp I launched in 2016. And since then, he has worked his way up to where he is now by taking risks and being confident. That is sort of the theme of this episode. So as you'll hear, Andre is full of out-of-the-box advice on learning how to code, landing your first job after a bootcamp, and advancing your career for years to come. I really do hope you take some of his advice seriously. Without further ado, here's Andre.
Cool.
All right, Andre, man, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Just for background, I'm going to get the background here of how I know you. Kind of like Roni, who I don't know which episode number he was on, but he was in the very first bootcamp cohort of the code school I helped start in Tel Aviv. And I'm somewhat surprised that it worked. And folks like you became software engineers because it in some ways it was, it was disastrous that season. But man, all I'd say would love to hear, because I don't even know if I remember this or know this about you, like what your background was before doing the boot camp. Obviously, that's years behind you. You're very successful now. We'll talk about that too. But would love to hear kind of what your career was up to that point of doing a boot camp, and then like what informed your decision to do that.
All right. Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. People say that it's hard to follow my life and my story because I've tried out a lot of different things. I'm born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden, and I knew since early age that I wanted to be a businessman because my father sent me to summer school, like stock trading for kids when I was 11.
That's awesome.
And I wanted to work with stocks. So I decided at university to study finance, and I have a degree in that. I have a Master of Science in finance. I ended up not getting a job in it after graduation, even though I applied to a lot of them. And so I decided to try out a few different things. I went to Ghana in West Africa to teach kids coding. Not coding, actually, computers. But
Cool.
In a school where they didn't even have computers. So I had to show them my laptop or draw on the board how does Google look like. Yeah, everything was imagination. Before I even showed up there with my laptop, the teacher would paint the computer and say imagine you have a computer, imagine you have a mouse,
That's
imagine
nutty.
giving those instructions. Yeah, for sure. So I did that. I was in the US for about 9 months. Doing internships, and I realized I wanted to work with startups, so I moved to Israel, and that was my second time living there. I started working for a startup, doing all kind of growth related stuff. They were basically telling me here's money, get us customers. So I did the SEO, I did PR, I got us featured in the BBC News and USA Today.
Nice.
Although I had never done that before.
Wait,
I had
which
never
company
done
was
PR.
this?
It was called Safer VPN. They don't exist anymore. They
Okay.
pivoted and started another business.
Cool.
So I got to try out a lot of things, and we had this email funnel. We had a few 100,000 email addresses, and we had to nurture them. And I wrote copy in Google Drive, and when we were transferring that to the email templates, there were always some mistakes, and I had to wait a long time for the developer to implement it. So I said, give me the HTML, I can figure things out. And I had done some really ugly website building in HTML when I was about 12 years old.
Nice.
So I knew the basics of it, kind of, which helped me. And and yeah, I realized that, hey, this is fun to code and actually build stuff, not just being the idea guy, but also being able to implement it. And I realized that to be good at this, I need to spend time on it. I did spend some evenings doing online courses, but you don't have anyone to ask for help.
Yeah.
You're not really committed either.
Yeah.
So I figured if I do one of these boot camps that were popping up back um, then I would really commit myself and get better at it. And that's when I found you and started at the Elevation Academy.
Yeah. That's awesome,
And
man. Yeah, I think you said a few things in there I want to zoom in on. Like one, the whole idea of commitment, and accountability and help. I experienced that even this morning. I used to do in Tel Aviv. I got really into CrossFit actually, and I did it for a number of years. And then like 2019, before the pandemic, I quit. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the gym on my own, and I really don't. Like I don't work out hard at all. And this morning was the first time I went to a CrossFit workout, in years. And like I've never worked out harder. I haven't worked out harder as hard since. And it was just the fact that there was some accountability, other people also doing it, that in and of itself, I think, to be honest, back then for Elevation Academy, like we had things were so rough, like we had so little together, that I would have to imagine that y'all were successful, because most of y'all were through that first group. Y'all were successful almost purely because of the accountability. I probably could have given y'all Udemy courses and said, I'm going to take your money, sit here, and you would have done, I think, just as well in some ways. Man, it's crazy. I didn't realize your background in finance. What year was that you were trying to find a job initially?
it was about 2012, but the problem was that when I started studying in 2008, it was the financial crisis. So
Yes.
when there were like the job fairs at the university, like
Yeah.
everybody's like, yeah, we're not hiring,
Yeah.
but why are you here? Yeah, employer branding. Someday, eventually, you'll find a job, but right now we're not hiring.
Yeah.
So it was completely pointless even being there.
I figured.
So by the time I graduated, you didn't have any relevant experience in the field,
Yeah.
but there were none to get anyway. So it was really a weird situation.
Do you feel like there was anything that drew you to wanting to, be a businessman? I mean, do you feel like there's some part of you that is still like not quenched because you're not trading stocks for a living, or are you so glad to not, I mean, you just don't even care? What do you feel?
I mean, I think life would be really stressful if you have to manage that amount of money all day and you won't be able to sleep at night. I did some trading on my own years back, and when you did a wrong trade, you couldn't sleep all night, and like just thinking how much money you lost on doing that, all the regrets and so on. Although software engineering can be stressful as well if you have deadlines and whatnot, but it's not the same kind of stress in
Yeah,
general.
it's not usually life or death. I mean, depending on where you work. I remember I worked at this social media startup, and the guy that sat next to me had just come from Lockheed Martin, and he was like, "Oh man, this is so much more relaxing to like program social media versus like missiles." I was like, "That sounds like it'd be stressful." Okay, well, tell me about, from your perspective. This is interesting for me to hear. So yeah, we were in Tel Aviv. Just kind of background for listeners. We were in Tel Aviv. I'd moved there. I mean, it's really hard to explain all the story about moving there, but I moved there, met Avi, who had started Elevation Academy. I think they're just Elevation now or something. And Avi is like, I want to build a coding boot camp. And I was basically like, well, I went through one once, so I could probably build that. And we ended up building Elevation Academy. Then you were part of that first group. And I was literally writing curriculum like in the evenings and early mornings, and then showing it to y'all during the day. And you went through, what was that process like for you? Like initially, I mean, had you done JavaScript before the boot camp or any real programming?
I had read this book. I don't remember what it was called, but something like JavaScript something for beginners, I
Nice.
suppose. And I thought like, yeah, I can just read this and I know what to do with it. But then when you try to sit down and write code, you forget all of it.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some understanding, but you have to sit with it and actually spend hours solving problems. So I hadn't really built anything with it. But to be fair, I didn't even know that that was your process, that you were up all night building the curriculum as we went by. I hadn't heard it back then, and I didn't notice it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I that's good to
Um,
know. I think I had like 3 or 4 weeks written whenever the program started. Um, and then my routine was that's why I never hung out with anybody because I couldn't. I would like leave at 5, would go home, do like dinner and bath with my kid. Then he'd go to bed like 7, and I'd stay up till like 1 a.m. and I'd sleep until like 4 or 5 and keep going. And then was, there with you guys from 9 to 5. And I would just do that like 6 days a week or so. But yeah, barely. The cohort 2 is much easier, because all the curriculum was written. But anyway, yeah, that was crazy. What about? I mean, what was that first experience like? If you remember, like learning, did it click immediately for you? Was it a struggle? Did you ever feel like, oh, this isn't for me? Or all along, did you feel pretty confident in your progressive learning?
I mean, some of it wasn't that hard. Um, like I said, I knew some HTML before and
Yeah,
CSS. That was easy for me.
yeah,
But there were parts that were hard, and you spent hours trying to solve it. And in the beginning, you did these mistakes like, well, we didn't have linters, so you'd have semicolons missing, and the code wouldn't compile or whatever, things like that. And you spend like crazy amount of time not understanding that it's not an array you're working on, it's an object or whatever. And today I just see those things instinctively because I've done a lot of coding.
mm,
But I think it's the same for most people. Like we all struggle with it. It isn't that easy to code.
yeah,
It becomes easier when you do it a lot, like with everything else. But it is a kind of complex, depending of course on what you're building. But it is usually complex things that we're working on. So
yeah,
it was a bit of a struggle, but I worked hard on it, and I spent my evenings and sometimes even my weekends on coding like side projects
yeah.
just to be better at it.
That's awesome. And then I remember, were you on that project for IBM
Yes,
with
together with
Roni?
Roni and what was his name, the other guy?
I forget. Leonid? Was that his
Me
name?
too.
Anyway,
Leonid.
Leonid. That's right. God bless him. Um, and then okay, so you built this final project. What was the job search? I mean, where did you end up finding your first position at, and how long did that take, and what that process look like for you?
I think we graduated in June, right? I think so, probably June. And I ended up having an internship in Stockholm in August.
Oh wow. Okay.
The thing is, back then I had a girlfriend in Stockholm, and I was traveling back and forth, and she was too. And I didn't know where I wanted to live in the end, actually. So I applied for IBM in Tel Aviv and some other places. I went for interviews, and I also applied in Stockholm. And I ended up. Um, I found this university website, their job board and internship board. I found that some startup was looking for people for June and July, but it was already beginning of August. And I said, "Hey, you probably don't have anyone else right now because everybody else is in school, but can I do August and September?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's cool." So I didn't really have any competition, which was
Nice.
a word of advice. Like, uh, try to find places where there is no competition,
Yeah.
if it's timing wise, for example.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
was there on a Thursday. No, I applied on a Thursday. I interviewed on Friday, and they said, "Can you come on Monday?" So that was the situation.
oh, that's awesome. That's not super common, but I do think a lot of folks have a misconception of the competition that most people who are applying for these positions like don't really know what they're doing at all. So if you've actually built some projects, you're going to be pretty far ahead of the competition. And then probably I'd guess also to be real, the time in which you're applying, it was before boot camps were, I mean, there were quite a few, but I would doubt, there were as many then as there are now. So probably a little bit different
Yeah,
too.
I don't think there were any in Stockholm back then, so
Okay.
it was kind of sort of unheard of. But I think one thing that really helped me, you were mentioning it, having side projects.
Yeah.
Me and Jonah, our TA during Elevation, we were having this side project where we were trying to build a chatbot, although it was no AI whatsoever. It was kind of dumb, but we were actually we slept like once or twice at school and working like all night long. I was sleeping on a couch in like 2, 3 hours, and then we were back to school kind of in the morning. And just having some side projects that I could actually show some code that I've actually built this, that helped me a lot. They said that we get people applying from 2, 3 years at university studying computer science, but they can't really build anything. But
Yeah.
with boot camps, you get hands-on skills.
Yeah. No, I remember you guys sleeping in the lobby of WeWork and then them getting mad at you when they discovered you the next morning. Like, you can't sleep here. It's like, why not? There's
Yeah.
showers, there's drinks, there's food. This is a perfect place to live.
Yeah, good times.
That's amazing. Okay, so then how long were you at this internship? Was it paid, unpaid? What did that look like?
It was paid, but very little,
Okay.
and it was about 2 months.
Okay.
And they said that they wanted to keep me, but they didn't have a lot of funding. It was really small. It was the two founders, and then like they had somebody consulting a few hours here and
Okay.
there, and interns every once in a while.
So you were
And
like
they're
thrown
not
in,
around anymore.
okay. So you were thrown into the deep end. Like you didn't really have were the founders technical?
Yeah, they both were actually.
Okay. So they were helpful.
One was, yeah, they were, but they were always lacking time, and so it was. Yeah, one of them was doing marketing and all the business stuff, but also coding, and the other was just technical.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I didn't get so much mentoring, so to speak, because they were always had a lot to do, but still, I got some tasks to solve, and I learned a lot by doing that as well. And I got something on my resume as well.
Yeah.
That's also valuable.
Yeah, no, that's huge. If you're like a boot camp grad, but you can have any kind of actual experience in your resume, it really sets you apart. And yeah, it's funny. I think I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but there are a few different types of people. I think you're probably one of those who do well in that environment where you step in, you're the most junior or the most experienced, and then they just give you all of the weight of the world on your shoulders and just say run, and figure it out. I think that can be a really great pressure cooker environment, where you can thrive, or for some folks who need that handholding or mentorship, I mean, they would just absolutely crumble. So it sounds like you thrived. Okay, so then from there, what was the next position you stepped into? Because I guess that was over in a few months, or
Yeah, luckily enough, one of the founders is really well connected in the Stockholm tech community. So he said, I would like to hire you, but I can't afford it. But at least I'll try to help you find something.
that's cool.
So I think he tweeted or put it on Facebook, like I had this talented guy, Andre, he's looking for a job or an entry-level position. And although prior to that, I had applied to some positions, I had not a lot of them accepting me. Within like a day of him tweeting that, I got like 13 interviews.
Whoa.
And yeah, like pretty much overnight. So even though I didn't get a lot of money and so much experience, just the fact that he connected me helped me out so much, and I'm really grateful for that. So I went interviewing with a few companies, and I ended up at a small consultancy that were doing some cool projects, some really talented people. They're pretty, even though they're small, they're pretty big in the community, so to say. That they have a few people that were speaking a lot at meetups and conferences. So Um, when you mention those guys and those people in Stockholm, everybody thinks they're rock stars, and uh, yeah, like they're cool gang, so to say.
That's awesome. And so how long
Yeah,
were you there for?
I was there for a bit over 2 years,
Okay. So that's
doing
like probably
front end development.
where you really honed your skills. I'm sure this is like, was this the place where you saw the most growth, you think?
I would say so, yes. I mean, we did the Backbone JS and the old ugly version of Angular in the bootcamp. I believe some jQuery as well. Um, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to learn React because we did that like the last week of the course, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
And they were doing purely React at the
Awesome.
time. So I didn't know anything. I had to study it on my own, doing online courses, building some hobby projects. Um, that's also a piece of advice to job seekers. Instead of bring the game to your home play, so to say, instead of going to them. So instead of waiting for them to ask me to do a case, like solve this thing or build
Mm.
it, I just built something and I sent it to them and said like, hey, I'm studying React now because I know you're working with React. I built this app, check it out. And then I did it on my terms and they liked it. So I didn't, because sometimes you get a case and it's really
Yeah.
hard to solve, and
Yeah.
you're just stuck and like, oh my God, you have some really hard challenges. But it's so great when you can just build what you're comfortable with.
That's great. So for this particular company, did you do that? Did you first build like a React app and then upon applying, did you send this app over to them?
No, I went for an interview and then they said, yeah, we might ask you to do a case later on. And then like within a day or two, I just sent it to them like, hey, here you
Cool.
go, check this out. So I went like ahead of schedule, and I think that helped me.
That's a great idea. So did you not have to do like their code challenge then?
No.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, because sometimes, and I've been on the other side of this before where you have people like we have like a standardized code challenge or something that we want people to build and we give them to build it. And then sometimes you get like the best ones ever, right? And then from then on, like you're comparing specifically like that solution to everyone else's solution, and they're usually all not as good. Whereas if they would have built something different, I wouldn't have probably even thought about like what is the best way to build this necessarily. I would just saw that they can build this thing. I think that's a great. I haven't heard anyone talk about that before. I think that's a great idea. It's a very, very proactive step that you can do to not have to do the code challenge they want you to do.
Yeah, now I'm giving away my best advice, but I won't have to do that again. But yeah, I think that could be helpful for beginners.
Well, if Andre comes to apply to your company, you should expect to get a code challenge before you give him one from him. So that's great, man. Okay, so I also noticed, and again, this is all fuzzy for my brain, but I feel like I saw a few different times that you were doing like different talks at meetups and that kind of thing. When did that start? I mean, at some point, did you just gain confidence and you wanted to do this? Were you trying to like pad your resume with like meetup talks? Yeah, tell me about those.
So it's been, I mean, the first company I was at, the consultancy, they were doing a lot of those like lunch and learns every Friday, and there was that kind of culture. Of course, not everybody was giving talks, but a bunch of them were. So there was this kind of culture. And when I started at my current company, Valtech, um, of course there were people doing that too. Um, and I was kind of inspired, like, okay, maybe I should start doing that as well. I had like 2 years of coding experience by the time. And there's this policy that we can go to conferences. The company pays for the ticket, but in return, we have to give a talk, a lunch and learn about that conference or a particular talk or whatever, just so we paid forward, so to say. So it was kind of by chance, actually. I went to Nordic JS, which is our biggest conference here in Stockholm, um, and I heard this good talk about Svelte, the front end framework, and I was kind of inspired. and I gave a lunch and learn talk about it at our company. And I used to go to meetups. That was before the pandemic, when you can actually go to meetups
Yeah.
physically. And I saw that there was a Svelte meetup starting, um, like a week or two after that in Stockholm. So I reached out to the organizer and said, like, hey, I have a already pre-made talk about Svelte introduction. I can have that. And he was really grateful, and he invited me to talk. Um, yeah, that was my first talk. I figured if I can do it for 30 colleagues, then might as well do it for 30 strangers.
Yeah.
And then I just started I don't know, the same kind of thinking that I did with the PR, just like hustling, basically
Yeah.
trying to get spots. I saw there was this one meetup of, like, the .NET user group in Sweden. They had a meetup about mob programming. I hadn't ever touched .NET back then, but I reached out to them and said, like, hey, we do mob programming at our company, and I've built this app around it that we open sourced. It's a mob programming timer that keeps track of whose turn it is. And even if you sit in another desktop on your Mac, it will pop up and like be really disturbing. So you don't forget to switch who's coding. So I gave a talk about that, and then it snowballed into more meetups and some online conferences. And I hope to give a real conference talk one day soon,
Yeah.
in front of a few hundred people, although it's super scary because I have stage fright and I have imposter syndrome as well.
Yeah.
But the only way to deal with it is to do something about it.
Yeah. I think that's, as I'm listening to you talk and trying to think of like, okay, what is it about Andre that sets you apart? Somehow in like your story, you do have like this extra amount of confidence. That's you're not fearful of hard things. I think that's the thing I see the most with, especially boot camp grads who are job searching, is the main thing that they have to control is their own confidence level. I think even in the job search, like some of the things that you did, right? Like to reach out to somebody, apply, and then say, no, screw it, I'm going to build the app first, and then to step forward to do lunch and learns, go to conferences, those kind of things. It's like the confidence itself is the thing that gets you to make those moves, because most boot camp grads are not willing to do the things that are actually effective to getting a job. You know, like the scary things, like reaching out to actual people. They want to like they want to build their portfolio website, right? And like change the colors and like make a logo or something. It's like, that's busy work. Like that will never get you a job. And then I always say, like, working on your own side projects, besides learning, the actual effectiveness of learning those things, it boosts your confidence, right? To say that you built something will boost your confidence, and that in turn will encourage you to go out and take these leaps. So what do you think? I mean, how did you gain that kind of confidence, or what like makes you in this position to be able to like take those forward movements? Do you think there's something like about like your background is this like a Swedish thing to just move forward and not care what people think?
No, I would say that's the opposite of the Swedish thing to do. Like, we had this thing called the Jante law. Like, you shouldn't believe that you are somebody special, and you shouldn't like be seen or be heard so much. So
Yeah.
and it's funny that you say I have confidence, because personally I don't. Okay, in some regards I do have confidence, but sometimes when it comes to code, I think that I lack confidence. Um, Maybe it depends on what day you're asking me, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and jump. Like, I'm picturing myself, I did the skydiving once, and I just see myself like, okay, I did it and it was so cool and I really enjoyed it afterwards. Like, how will it feel afterwards? And like getting that boost kind of thing. But always challenging yourself,
Yeah.
kind of thing. If it is scary, then it's probably good for you.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of times.
That's so true. Would you skydive again?
I don't think my fiance would allow me to, but it would be fun.
I did that once as well, and I'm like, I don't know if I would do it again. Like immediately afterwards, like I was like, oh, that was so fun, that was easy, it wasn't scary at all. But now, like thinking about it again, I'm like, I don't know. I remember that moment where I stepped out of the plane, and I don't want to do that again. That's amazing. Okay, so you were at that company. Like fast forward to like what's happened since then. I mean, what are you doing these days? What is your job as a software engineer look like?
So I'm at a consultancy. We work with clients in all over the world. We have offices in the US as well, in India, and like 20 countries by now, more or less. We're about 5,000 people.
That's awesome.
And now with COVID, we do work more and more across countries. So there might be teams from our company working for clients. Let's say it's a British client. We have people in Ukraine, in Sweden, in the UK, you name it. Um, and so sometimes we have those kind of teams, and sometimes we're just expert consultants being rented out, so to say, to clients, and we sit there work full time there. And it's usually it could be half a year projects or 3 months. Sometimes it's multiple years. Some consultants are at our clients for like 8 years or something. So I guess that's a good grade for the client.
Oh wow.
Um, and it depends. Like at the Swedish, it's a really long name, Swedish Educational Broadcasting Agency. Like think of PBR.
Yeah.
Basically, they do like TV shows and radio programs. We were rebuilding their well, think of their online streaming service. We were remaking it from Ruby on Rails to React.
Awesome.
So I was part in that team of like doing step by step, changing it. Sometimes it's just maintenance, and sometimes it's what do you call it, greenfield projects, just like starting off from a blank slate. So it really depends what we do. And right now I'm actually between assignments, and I'm going on vacation in a week from now, so it's kind of nice to just have some time in between. So to
That's
say.
awesome. What do you have any big like what are your future career goals? I mean, what do you want to do in the next 5-10 years? What would be ideal for you think?
It's really hard to say, actually. I've been thinking a long time to become a full stack developer, but I still tend to go back to front end all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe because I'm good at it and it's my comfort zone, but I also think I'm trying to challenge myself every once in a while. I'm also thinking about the tech lead role. I tried it out now recently. Maybe it wasn't the best timing personally in my life. I had a lot of stress and other issues. So yeah, I should try it again in the future.
I'm guessing your wedding planning.
No, we're moving actually, moving apartments, but
nice.
Yeah, like a lot of stressful things going on in the past 2 years, like one after the other. So it was kind of like a bit too much. I've been close to burnout for some time now, actually. So I'm trying to take it a bit easier. That's the downside of being ambitious and proactive and trying to be on all the talks and all that. That sometimes it can be stressful and there's a downside to it as well.
Yeah, you got to take that vacation. Well, I don't want to keep you from literally the vacation you're about to go on when you get off this podcast. But man, any other like parting advice? You know, our listeners are folks looking to switch into becoming a software engineer, maybe considering a boot camp, maybe they're job searching. Any other words of advice you'd want to offer for those folks?
One of them is like apply for jobs that don't exist. I got that advice when I was studying. So if there is an open position, you can bet that there will be 100 other people applying for it, and they have a big stack of applicants, and it will take them time to go through them. But if you find a company that you really like, even if it's smaller, and a good candidate is always a good candidate, then you will have zero competition. You'll be the only candidate that they have to take a stance on. And if you're good, yeah, why not? It will make their life easier, like not having to make such a big choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, look around for cool companies that you want to work with, even if they're small. What else? Like actually build stuff. Like, don't
Yeah.
just sit and cram for 100 hours doing this one Udemy course, the full React, Redux, blah 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 buzzword,
Yes.
100-hour course. Because when it's time for you to actually solve your problems, they can't prepare you for all of that.
Yeah.
It's about reading the documentation and being able to assemble the Lego pieces and build what you want, and
Yeah.
solving the problems as they come up, so to say. What else? I think I was really inspired. We had this guest speaker at the bootcamp at Elevation. I think his name was Michael, the VC guy.
Michael Eisenberg. Yeah, he
He,
was one of the early WeWork investors,
wow.
which is
So he
hilarious. It's
probably lost
funny,
a lot of money in the end.
bro. I think he's doing okay.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, considering WeWork's rise and fall. Yeah. No, but he was talking about like how we as software engineers, we're automating away a lot of jobs, and like a lot of
Hmm.
people that he spoke about, he visited a bank and a lot of workers there weren't really needed, but because of the unions, the manager couldn't fire them, and that we have a shared responsibility to make sure that people in how do you say, underrepresented communities, that they
Hmm.
get a chance
Yeah.
to have these kind of jobs. And also kids, I believe he talked about teaching kids to code because
Yeah.
they're the future. They should be ready for that. So I started very early on. Actually, when I was doing my internship myself, so I was a beginner on my own, I was starting to volunteer to teach kids to code every Saturday morning. Um, and just for 2 hours. And I've learned a lot by it. I think I've
Yeah.
become a better software developer from doing it, because if you can explain to a 7-year-old how a loop works or if else conditions, then you
Yeah.
can write pretty simple code as well. That's very understandable. Like, go back to basics. Um, that helps you a lot, and it makes you a better communicator
Yeah.
around code as well. That you can, if you can explain it. I mean, I taught my sister coding when she was 9, and of course I did it the right way. So we did it with a test-driven approach. She didn't know JavaScript at all, and we wrote our first test in JavaScript,
That's
like
awesome.
addition function. Yeah. So I showed her an addition function, a test for it, and then I showed how to implement the code for it. And I said, okay, now you do it, but you do subtraction. She was 9 and she did it test-driven development style,
That's
and she
awesome.
got TDD and she got JavaScript in once. Um, so, I mean, it helps you a lot in your day-to-day
Yeah.
job as well, and it
Ma-
does make you stand out as well,
Yeah.
and give you something on the resume as well.
I'll need to personally follow up about that. My son he just turned 8, and he like reads like a madman. He loves strategy games, board games. He's really smart, but he's been like begging me to teach him how to code, and I just haven't done it yet because like in some ways I don't believe that he's old enough, but that's not true. Man, those are 3 great things. I want to go over them again because that's definitely part of like what I preach. So you said apply to companies or reach out to companies even if they don't have positions open. And I think that's a great approach to try and think about the place you actually want to work. I mean, you'll be way more motivated to work hard to get that job than you would if you're blasting random resumes. Build projects. Obviously, that's super important to be able to actually build it. And I think I saw a post today on LinkedIn where some guy said that he has a bunch of Udemy courses and he's never finished one of them because he like once you get into it, you get the gist of it, like, okay, cool. Now I understand what I need to do. Building your own projects is much more effective than taking the entire 6 hour whatever full stack thing. And then 3, like basically pay it forward. I it's funny. I remember that same talk too, which is crazy because it was 7 years ago or something like that now that he came in, and I remember a few things that he said from that, but that was one thing I remember is he always said like just basically pay it forward, and paying it forward where if you have this opportunity to learn and be taught, I mean, you should ethically pay it forward, but then also as you're saying, like there's internal motivation as you teach. And I think I've never learned more as a software engineer than I did that first year at Elevation Academy, where I had people like you asking me questions about things that I don't care about. Like there's certain aspects of like the code that you're like, I don't care. I've just taken that for granted. I don't want to spend time on it. I'm not interested in that. But when you have people asking you questions about that one little niche corner case piece of code, it's like, okay, well, now that I've got 12 perspectives all asking me different pieces of this, I have to go figure out the answer, and figuring out that answer is what brings you to understanding a different perspective on how someone else might be by viewing this. So, man, those are great things. Andre, I appreciate your time. Yeah, please.
One more thing about getting involved in volunteering in a community like that is that you also get connections. Like if you are a bootcamp graduate, you probably don't know so many developers or people in tech in your city. And as we're like 7 or 8 mentors every time, and usually the parents there as well. Sometimes they're interested in tech or we're close to it, but they don't know it well, or they know a bit of it. They'll see that you're a good person, that you can deal with people.
Yeah.
You get friends that way, and then like I know people that started there that got internships through it. They got jobs, and I'm sure I could just reach out and say like, "Hey, I'm looking for a new job," and they would help me in a second. So that's a really great way to build a network. So like get involved in your local, if it's Coder Dojo or whatever you have in your local city, like that can help you and others. Like it's a win-win, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we have mentoring opportunities at Parsity, my online code school now, and I'd say, once you're in the network, right? So I would have to believe that if any of those mentors were ever looking for a job, all the other mentors would step forward to help them. It would be really, really simple to do something like that. Is there anything you want to plug? I mean, I don't know if you've got like Twitter, LinkedIn, something that you want to plug here.
I'm not active on Twitter whatsoever. I just discovered, funny enough, when you speak about it, I visited my Twitter a few weeks ago for the first time in years, and I just saw, and I got a bit starstruck myself. Actually, I saw that Dan Abramov had tweeted me, the Redux inventor. Like, what? He tweeted me? Like, and it was something like really low level. I think I had just tweeted like it was back in the bootcamp actually. Like I just finished Dan Abramov's course on Redux Part 1, and he said, "Oh, you should watch the second one as well."
Oh, that's awesome!
Kind of cool.
Wow, that's a really old tweet.
Yeah, really old. But I'm on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to help out or answer questions or whatever. If somebody wants to find me there, it's hard to spell and hard to pronounce, but Andre Elmoznino Laufer. You can probably find it in the show notes or in the episode name, I suppose. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, I've never attempted to pronounce your name. It's just Andre, but I'll have to learn. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for the time. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that does it for today's episode. If you want to take your first step to becoming a software engineer, then we have Dev 30 starting in 2 weeks from now. So on July 25th, together as a cohort, we will learn the fundamentals of JavaScript in 30 days while posting and learning publicly on LinkedIn, so building your network. And we're also going to be working on our habits. How can you carve out time every day or every week to spend specifically committed to coding and learning how to become software engineers? And of course, we are going to be working on our mindset. We have a daily podcast. It's just between 2 and 5 minutes long to encourage you every day for the 30 days of Dev 30, what it is you need to work on as it relates to your mind and your confidence. And a lot of that really is part of what the episode is all about. You just listened to about how you can take those audacious steps forward to your next career. Of course, don't forget to check out Peter's YouTube channel where he is documenting and cataloging his own transition from learning how to code, becoming a software engineer, to now being fully self-employed. That process, that journey, that's really, it's awesome. So check it out. Also, don't forget to check out our online code school, Parsity. It's PARSITY.io. We don't have another cohort launching until October, but if you're considering, you definitely should work on your JavaScript chops, which brings me back to Dev 30. So check out Dev 30. It's DEV30. dev30.xyz, dev30.xyz, and we'll see you back here next week.